Top Game with your host, Sammy Castro. Episode 22. Master Gunnery Sergeant John Tiffany, USMC retired, aka The Preserver, still on duty with the Warfighter Integration Program. This interview is another drop from back in February. Although we never served together the same duty station, when we finally crossed paths, there was an immediate connection. As intense as they come, make no mistake about it, Master Guns Tiffany is still actively engaged on behalf of the tribe. Highly recommended across the OCC field as I began to canvass the community for potential guests. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to sit down with them for an interview. A key centerpiece to our discussion is a cautionary advice to recognize when the pressure of our profession is becoming overwhelming. Much like the metaphor from Secretary Mattis's recently released book, in case of loss of cabin pressure, we need to securely don our own mask before we can help others. Admin notes. 1. I've mentioned this organization previously, but the Marine Corps Association has several distinct programs that merit being highlighted individually. The Commander's Forum program allows for a unit's commanding officer to receive an unconditional gift in the amount of up to $1,500 to offset costs for unit PME. The requirement is that it must possess an operational, cultural, or historical tie-in. You can find their website at mca-marines.org for more information. If you're having difficulties with the proposal, hit me up and I'll personally help walk you through it. 2. Our Patreon account is live at patreon.com/topgamepodcast. All revenue generated will be levied towards production costs as well as some merchandise currently in development. 3. If that's a bridge too far, hit us up with a written iTunes review. At 10,000 unique downloads, we've only received 2. I'm grateful for the 5-star rating, believe me, but now I'm asking for direct written feedback in order to continue improving actions on the objective. Disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed on Top Game are those of the producers or the guests appearing on the program and do not reflect the views and opinions of the United States Marine Corps or the Department of Defense. Thanks for tuning in.
So your wife getting freaking Spouse of the Year, man.
Well, so she didn't win Spouse of the Year. She won Spouse of the Year for Camp Courtney. And then she made it through like the next checkpoint, which was the top 18. They break it down like, because there's 6 categories: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, National Guard, and Coast Guard. So they picked 3 candidates from each of those categories, and that's the top 18. So she made it to that. But then she found out, well, while we were here, that she didn't get selected for that. But because then they would go to top 6, and then they picked the overall from the top 6. But there's a like a town hall meeting and awards presentation here in DC. I think we're gonna either I'm gonna fly her out, or we're both gonna come out for her to be able to do that. I think that was a plan. I'd been squirreling away some cash for a jiu-jitsu immersion camp in Maine, but I figured, I mean, I can do that whenever. I get jiu-jitsu all the time. I mean, it was a nice to have, but this is something that I think that she needs.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So how you enjoying retirement?
Loving it.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to do a great program. I mean, I went down there last time I was here to go talk to Doug and those guys, and I really believe in that mission and what they're doing.
Yeah, so do I. And I think they're getting ready. They're on the cusp of taking it to the next level. They're starting to get some pushback from the services, and just a little bit of time I've been there, I was like, this is messaging. You guys, you guys haven't done a good job of putting your strategic plan out there. They don't understand why you're doing this, and so we've been on this road show for a couple months now. Like, hey, look,
right?
I know you guys are starting to get frustrated. Here, Stormforce this summer, coming up here in May, you're going to see why we've done this, and when we show it to you, then it's going to be orders of magnitude how much it's going to grow, how fast the capability is going to grow on top of it. But we got to get them there. And it's just like a little more patience, guys. Just a little more patience.
Yeah.
and then we'll go to some next level stuff.
So when y'all coming out to Okie, come talk to us there.
Come out to Okie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We could use it.
Yeah.
We got MEFX kicking off starting at the end of April, beginning of May. 1 through 10 May is when the main exercise is going on. But of course, we kind of do our thing ahead of time for our Intel X, so that we can kind of get our shit together before we bring in the rest of the community element and all of that.
Right.
And I don't know if you're tracking this. I'm sure you are. But so the MEFXs are the only large scale exercises that we conduct where we are the intended training audience and not like USFK and Indo-PACOM. So, when you put it in that perspective, a lot of times we're just, not that we're going through the motions, but we're just a piece of a bigger puzzle. This is, under MSTP, we're the only ones, we're the intended audience. And so we get an opportunity to craft a scenario and massage some things from a exercise design perspective in a way that we don't normally get to. And so we're trying to capitalize on that. But there's some dinosaurs around Quantico that are slow to adapt. And so, I kind of went through that back in from FX17, and my understanding was that the other MEFs would pick the ball up and roll with it for the MEFXs, but they really didn't do a good job of continuing the relationship with JCMS Plex. We had a now top Dunninger out there, and leveraging him wasn't something that we continued to do. So now here we are at MEFX19, kind of picking up right where I left off. But I was talking to Joe Black about it the other day, and I kind of told him, I said, as I can't really bitch and complain because I didn't reach out to the other MEFs to get them, or even just to let them know this is what I did and this is what I need you all to continue on with, and this is why it benefits you. And he's like, yeah, you're probably being right, but the other thing is you also cannot underestimate your peers' laziness.
Yep. So true. So true. And that is so Joe Black.
Yeah.
That is so Joe Black.
So how's the family doing? They're good?
Family's doing good, yeah. Wife is happy that she was showing me the other day. She was like, you got all your scrapbooks. She was, look at all the pictures while you were in uniform. Look at all the pictures you go through, and there's only like a couple that really stood out. And she goes, look at all the pictures I've taken of you since you retired. Do you see the difference? And I was like, holy cow. And she goes, yeah. She goes, I like this guy. Smiling.
Yeah.
Every picture since I retired, smiling, stress is gone and all that. And she goes, and she loves that. Work doesn't come home with me. No phone calls in the middle of the night and all that stuff. Yeah. She's enjoying it. She's enjoying it.
So any travel plans? You guys gonna like take a post-core honeymoon or?
Brother, I'd love to. I would. I'd like to take her. Honestly, if I could take her anywhere, I'd take her to Harstead, Norway.
Why? Is that someplace you went on deployment?
So I was up there for a deployment, and I'd like to get her up there so she could see the northern lights, because you just can't describe them, and it's like you could reach in the sky and storm.
Like you can envision electromagnetic spectrum.
Yep. But she,
that's such a sick post-retirement dream.
But she's not a traveler. She's a homebody. Her entire family, they're all within like 15 clicks of each other here in Maryland, and they're dug in. So
this is where you met her?
Yeah, I met her here, and then this is where we'll stay. God bless her. I love her. I gotta love her from staying in this crap town, but yeah.
So where did you enlist from, and how far back was that?
Okay, so I enlisted in Winchester, Virginia in 1993.
It's not too far from here.
Yeah. Well, I depped in 92.
Okay.
I shipped in 93, February of 93. But yeah, Winchester's maybe 95 miles down the road from here.
Okay.
Might have stayed in this hotel or close to this location when we came up to MEPS, because we shipped out of the Baltimore MEPS down to Parris Island. But yep, that's where I dipped in at Winchester, Virginia.
And how did the assignment process go back then for MOS? Did you know what you wanted or?
Oh, I went to Parris Island in 03, security forces. Got down there, they gave me the INT test. Took us in there and it was a Morse test. He did it, this is I, dot it, this is N, da, that's T. Copy it. And sit there and did that and did really well, and got dragged into a room, and this staff sergeant, man, I can't remember his name now. It'll come to me, but the staff sergeant, he was like, yep, you can be James Bond or you can be President's security guard. What do you want to do? I'm like, well, shit, James Bond, of course. And, all right, cool. And sign me up. And, it was going to be tuxedos and the high life. And the next thing I know, I'm in Fort Devens, Massachusetts, copying Morse code. Like, what is this? And I got a chief screaming at me, if I fail, I'm going to be a cannon cocker in some artillery unit in the another staff sergeant.
Your ear immediately starts ringing.
Yeah, it's just like, oh gosh, what have I done? I should have been the Presidential Guard. Yeah, it was, Fort Devens.
And we no longer have a schoolhouse there.
No.
Is there even a base there?
Yeah, there's still a base there. I want to say 5th Special Forces does some training out of there. I know at one point they were talking about making part of the base a prison system or something like that, but I think 5th Special Forces is still doing some training up there.
So I talked to Leon Ransom today. He told me that you guys were in A school together out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a long time ago, huh?
Yeah. It's a long time ago, and it was just yesterday.
It's amazing how that is, mm-hmm. Where you can look back and I was telling this story to one of the Marines the other day. My dad's oldest brother had asked me to kind of start digging into some of the family history, because there's Ruben Adame was a PFC with 1-1 Charlie Company back in 1950.
Okay.
And he came up missing. And so, I didn't know all of this until after I joined the Marine Corps. Because I thought, I knew I had some family that were in the Marine or in the military, but none that I knew of that were Marines. But so I started doing some digging, and I found some articles from a weblog and then some other stuff. And I reached out to some of the guys. I tracked them down, and two individuals in particular, Norman Campbell and Ron Brower. It's amazing how those names still are with me. But it was when I was a Goodfellow, and I talked to them, and I asked them about, he was my grandfather's uncle, and I started getting some of the stories, but to listen to them tell their tale, I could hear in their voice that they were, as they were describing the Battle of Horseshoe Ridge, as they called it, they were there as they were recounting it to me.
Yeah.
And that Ron and Norman were still taking trips pretty much on an annual basis over to Korea to look for their bodies.
Mm.
And, I don't know if that's still going on, if that process is still taking place with the current tensions and political landscape. But just, that speaks volumes, because there's things that you just don't forget.
Yeah.
So in light of that, what are some of the things that kind of stick out to John Tiffany as you kind of look back over your career?
Things that stick out. The things I miss, I'll kind of start there. Maybe we'll wade into it. My wife says I'm crazy. I miss 0 Dark 30. I was always the first guy in. It didn't matter if we were getting ready to deploy, just the battalion coming up, whatever. I was always the first guy in. And I like standing out there in the morning with a cup of coffee, watching the battalion come to life. Marines spilling out of the barracks, sleepy-eyed, and freaking just getting going, getting to it. Because they're characters. They're characters. And, and you could always, it was always consistent, no matter where you were at, once you identified them, it was always the low clusters, right? These guys are going to come out and they're going to be the hard chargers and motivated. And you got this group up here, they're going to be the last out. They're going to get out there, but they're going to be the last out. And man, they'll work for you, but sometimes you wonder why they ended up in the Marine Corps. I miss early morning and watching the battalion come to life, watching the Marines start the day. Miss the sound of helicopters. Yeah, I miss the sound of helicopters. I hear them now, and every now and then we'll get the HMX-1 will overshoot here and whatnot, and heart gets pitter pattering, and I don't know why they have that effect on me. I miss helicopters, miss the arty here in the artillery, the rifle range and stuff like that.
Sounds of freedom.
Yeah,
that's how I refer to it whenever I hear that stuff.
And Marines, the individual Marines. No ifs, ands, buts about it. When I retired, I was done. I was ready to go. I'd carried my ruck as far as I could. Had a lot of Marines call me first 60 to 90 days after my retirement ceremony, checking on me. They all thought I was going to be freaking out because I wasn't in formation. I didn't have a screaming iron tight. You guys didn't pay attention. I was done. I'd given everything I had. I always told the Marines, give as much as you can for as long as you can to as many as you could. And May 24th, 2018, that was my last step. And I was done with the uniform.
Right.
Being master guns, being in the Marine Corps. But the individual Marines, I miss them. My wife was talking about it when you reached out and asked about doing this. And she was like, yeah, I know you're going to go. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, Marines asking to sit down and talk to you. I know you're going to go. Just go. Just go. And whatnot. So I do. I miss the individuals. I miss some of those old dinosaurs you talk about. Their names keep coming up. The Joe Black, Leroy Strongs, those guys. Mostly because they raised me, and they were giants, icons in our community.
Right.
And at the end, it's like, just hope I made them proud.
Yeah.
Just hope I made them proud.
I spent about 2 hours today in a one-on-one with Russ Meade, and I was talking to one of my sergeant.
Russ didn't give you any dirt?
But it was all work. But I mean, because you know what his baud rate is like.
Oh yeah.
And then it was I felt I told a young sergeant that I stay close to. I said it was like rolling with a coral belt, which is like the next level. And there wasn't any rounds, there was no rest, there was no water. It was 2 hours straight. And but when he got up to go get a printout for me, as he was prepping me up for my next meeting, I stood up and my legs were kind of woozy.
I used to bend over and start twisting like this. Hey, what are you doing? I go, I'm breaking the chain on this runaway gun. Slow down, give us a second to write, sir. Now, you talked about asking Barry Rogers for dirt. So Russ and I were in uniform together.
Okay.
when he was still a captain, and I was a young sergeant down at 2nd Radio Battalion, and that's been the running secret between he and I. I always, he knows where my skeletons are buried at because they're buried right next to his. Right? And I know where they are. Barry, it's a little disappointing to hear Barry. The only thing he could come up with was I needed to get a haircut.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the things about Russ is that I refer to him to outsiders from the 2600 field as kind of like the SIGINT demigod of the Marine Corps, and then I tell to kind of give them a better appreciation. It's like, that the Marines tell like SIGINT flavored Chuck Norris jokes about Russ Meade, and they're like yeah, and my favorite one that I go to is that Russ's password login uses characters that aren't found on the standard keyboard.
I wouldn't doubt it. Excuse me.
Jay was gone this whole week that I was here, but I've been 3 weeks on the Eastern Coast, Eastern Seaboard, between Quantico, Suffolk, JCMS Plex, those guys down there, and then up here. And I hit Chantilly for a couple of other site visits and all that. And then it's been good. It's been productive. I got a hell of a trip report to finish up, but it's a practice that I've adopted to leverage other people's money in order to carry water for the MEF back to the East Coast, because and I'll be honest with you, sometimes I feel almost as though that we're out of sight and out of mind.
Yeah.
And having to either come in early or stay late, and kind of shift my schedule. And I've kind of got the command condition to accept that. Like, if Top's not here, it's for a good reason. He's he came in late last night or whatever. And I just kind of keep the rest of the team apprised of what my movements are and why. And I don't get any pushback at all. I mean, it's a requirement. But now I'm finding myself having to cover down on the division in a way that I never anticipated. Because we've got some officers over there in leadership positions that have read the NDS, and they've read the MOC, and they've read the FOE, and they've internalized it. And so now they're looking at everything as it pertains to signatures and management and MCON and, spectrum, warfare, maneuver. I mean, all of that. And it requires some subject matter expertise. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, and this is just me being honest, I feel as though I'm kind of not necessarily faking it, but like I don't have all the answers, but I've got more than most of these guys, and so it's requiring me to kind of step my game up. And not too long ago, Lieutenant Colonel Hurt, who was our deputy for a couple of years before he crossed over to become the Division G2, kind of politely but forcefully poked me in the chest. He's like, "Top, don't take this the wrong way, but I kind of see you as big SIGINT, little EW." And to be honest, he was right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think I'm unique in that aspect, but it doesn't give me an out.
No.
Especially now, because I read all the documents that they're chewing on and internalizing. So, I've got a hill. Yeah.
And I think that's the entire community has a hill. You can lay that on the doorsteps, guys like me. We didn't do a good job of training you from 2001 to 2018. EW was definitely not something we were concerned with. That wasn't the fight. And we took our, I won't say we took our eye off the target. We got target fixation. we were going after one target, and we were training everybody to one target, and we let a lot of skills atrophy. So big SIGINT, little EW, that would be a fair assessment of the whole community. And I've said in meetings here since retirement and badging back in, listening to folks talk about what is EW, it's not just us that has a hill to climb up. It's everyone. Yeah.
So, I was talking to Connor Mahoney. He's a 0261, and in our interview, he talked about that imposter syndrome or concept where no matter what you've done and what your accomplishments are, sometimes when you find yourself and you do that introspection, you feel as though it's normal almost to feel as though like you haven't really earned that position to where you've gotten to. And have you ever felt like that at certain
absolutely.
points in your career? And what did you do to overcome that?
So yeah, all the way, all the way, brother. Let me tell you, the first morning putting on my uniform and pinning Master Gunnery Sergeant chevrons into my collar, looking in the mirror after I've shaved and all that, I'm standing there laughing like they really did this. Because I'm little SIGINT, little EW. I was good at working with men and women and taking care of them, and just gifted in getting them to do a good job. But I look in the mirror and I just start laughing at it, and it's like, man, you faked your way all the way to the top. Somebody's going to figure it out now. And the answer is, every time it was like that for me. Every promotion was like, man, I'm not ready. You grind. You just keep grinding. That's just like in the ring. You weren't a rock star the first time you stepped on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu mat, were you?
Yeah, no. I'm still not. I got humbled yesterday.
Still getting rolled up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we learn more from those losses.
Yeah.
We learn more from those humble sessions, and we grow. And, and that was 26 years. Every day was just freaking grinding and trying to be better than the next day. Make it just a little bit better. I watched a lot of people burn out early and burn out fast, because they were trying to change the world now.
Right.
And I'm not saying we don't need people like that. We do, but I think sometimes you have to do that self-introspection and that expectation management for yourself. I'm not going to change the world, but I'm going to make today a little bit better than yesterday, even if it's one little thing. And I think sometimes young Marines, young officers, and enlisted, they've accepted that they've become something bigger than themselves. They volunteered for the right reasons and all that. But I don't know. They get caught up on in the romance or the Hollywood of it, and there's just not like this earth-shattering, dramatic thing they did. So they failed. That's not the case. Sometimes just walking by and patting a Marine on the shoulder and saying good morning.
Yeah.
Without knowing it, you acknowledge that guy's existence, and that's what he needed that day because he was getting ready to, freaking start a 9mm. They don't, and they burn out too fast because they're expecting this big headline thing, and it's little things going on in the seams.
Yeah. So we've had a significant amount of instances of depression and suicide ideation out there on the Rock. And I know we're not unique in that aspect, but one of the things that I think exacerbates it is the fact that they're so far removed from home.
Yeah.
So I mean, they can't just, catch a bus or catch a flight or get in their own POV. General Smith just finally released, upon assuming command, new guidance allowing the Marines to get them vehicles because they were confined to the Green Line.
Yeah.
And moving from base to base, and there wasn't a Green Line that took them to Kadena, because for a variety of reasons. But there was no way for them to be able to enjoy Okinawa without significant difficulty or significant financial burden, because it's expensive out there.
Yeah.
But for me, I made it a point that for like my sergeant's blanket or tacit approval for submission of a driving package, but now that extends to all of them. So the only thing I'm worried about is that there's not enough parking right there at Camp Courtney by the PEF headquarters. So that's gonna be rough. I'd rather contend with that than contend with what'd you do this weekend? Nothing. Why not? Now there ain't no excuse.
Yeah.
Get your ass down to Naha, go see the festivals, go up to Okuma, go camp out, enjoy the resort out there, and then everywhere in between, get out and go see this place. And so, part of it that the way in which the Castro family has kind of adapted to that situation is I host the shop over to the house regularly, and the other thing is every time I'm gone, I feel like I'm not there to provide not necessarily just that cover, but that attention and that what I would refer to in Spanish is cariño, that tenderness that they sometimes need. Mm-hmm. I'm fair and I'm firm with them, but I also baby my Marines probably to a fault.
Probably not because you recognize it. Probably not because you recognize it. You talked about the Crystal. She enjoyed the rank of Master Gunnery Sergeant more than any. Because it was the first time where she saw me really open up with the Marines, and let them in. I wasn't just a freaking machine.
Right.
There was a man inside that freaking uniform that God honest cared about him. So. I understand what you're saying, having felt that way, but because you recognize it, you're not babying them too much.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how many packages are waiting for me when I get back to purchase their vehicles, take the driving test off and all of that. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing how they take advantage of that opportunity because it was one of the limiting factors for them in terms of liberty. And General Smith says that he actually released a YouTube video about it, which I was grateful to see. Him and Sergeant Major Mario Marquez have been really good with messaging and getting the word out to them in ways that are outside the norm for how a MEF level commander communicates with the junior Marines.
And it's something. The Marine, they've been dipping their toe in it, but it's something the Marine Corps is starting to embrace from the commandant down, the social media, and how to do it right. And it's everything from the sergeant major out there at 29 Palms with the freaking safety brief, the Marines throwing their gee-dunk up on the freaking counter, and you don't need the beer. Here's 5 gallons of water. Hydrate. And whatnot. It's great. All of this. It's we're getting smart, and that's a good thing.
So when I first started doing it, to be honest, it was somewhat selfish and selfless at the same time, in that I was using it as an opportunity to really kind of sit down with those that had gone before or those that are still right alongside me and kind of pick their brains in a way that I was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to capture it. And then I think like a switch clicked when I was interviewing Scoggins, when he said, like, he just kind of blurted out, it's like, we got a freaking podcast. I was like, what do you mean we? Like, I'm the only motherfucker putting in work on this.
That's like, John Scoggins, though, man.
Yeah. But he weed me, right? Like royal weed me, and but it made sense. But it took for me to hear him say that, to look him in the eyes when he said that, to really realize that, hey, this is something that belongs to all of us, and that's not how I necessarily envisioned it, but like, what did John Tiffany think when he found out that there was a podcast?
When I so full disclosure, when I first saw it, I was like, no, this is kind of like Gunny's Corner. Sam Carter had that like blog thing he was doing for a bit, and he fell away from it, busy life and all that stuff. He comes back to it, but I was like, this Gunny's Corner is going to the next level. So, all right, Sam Castro's picked it up. Now we've gone from he's just writing his thoughts or pulling in thoughts from other people. He's doing interviews, and there's the audio recording. It's great. I think this is great. I was like, it's really cool. And I'm sitting down there and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to hear what this guy's got to say. I want to hear what this guy's got to say. Yeah, forget him. Let's go on to this one now. So I thought it was great. And I like that it's out there, because I think back to Master Gun's Clatterbuck when
I've never heard that name before.
When I was young troop, huge influence on me, and entirely the only reason I re-enlisted the first time was
He's a 2691.
He's a 51, believe it or not.
Okay.
He found out. He and I grew up in the same neck of the woods down in Virginia, and when he found that out, he kind of took me under his wing and mentored me. And he was on me about re-enlisting, and finally I was like, look, Master Sergeant, the only way I'm re-enlisting is if you can guarantee me you're going to be at the next duty station I go to and continue mentoring me. Otherwise, leave me alone. And he goes, well, there's a whole lot. I got to get selected for Master Guns. And I was like, well, that's the only way I'm doing it.
A lot of moving parts, right?
Right. And
he kind of stuck to him like a remora to a shark.
So I said that, and he left me alone about re-enlisting. And I come in one day, I'm there at the company office. Tiffany. Yeah, what's up, Master Sergeant? Come here. Go down to his office. He slides this list across the desk, and his name's highlighted. I see he's been selected for Master Gunnery Sergeant. I go, hey, that's awesome. I know that's what you were looking.
Yeah.
That's what you were wanting. That's awesome, Top. He goes, yep. And they're sending me home, sending me back to Camp Lejeune. I was like, that's really awesome, because that's all he talked about. Got to go to Camp Lejeune. Got to get back to Camp Lejeune. Got to get back to Camp Lejeune. I was like, I'm glad it all came together. He goes, let's go. Where are we going? Walked over to the CO's office. The CO and the career planner are there signing paperwork. And I'm looking at Master Sergeant.
You walked into an L-shaped ambush. I'm
like, what's up? And he goes, you've got orders to 2nd Radio Battalion. You check in the day after I do. I'm like, really? And he goes, yep. He goes, you said if I guaranteed I'd be at the next place with you, you would re-enlist. And I go, yes, sir, I did. And he goes, CO's got your re-enlistment paperwork ready. Roger that. And I put my hand in the air, because I gave the man my word. That guy, I swear, you could sit in a room with him for 10 minutes and learn more about leading men in 10 minutes watching him engage Marines than you could at any PME school. If that, I wish as a Lance Corporal, as a sergeant, I could have heard him talk like this.
Yeah.
Or I could go and, hey, Marines, you need to listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. Hear their thoughts. Because, everybody talks the Marine Corps changes. I was a Lance Corporal when you were a Lance Corporal. We didn't just go walking into Master Gunn's office.
No, you didn't.
You didn't want to see him.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't want to see much above Gunny.
Yeah, Gunny was enough at DLI.
Yeah.
Singajewski was the Master Guns at DLI when I checked in there.
So, times have changed. I think we're a little more approachable. I won't even say we're more approachable than they were. It's just a different environment. A different climate, and we had to adapt to it. But I still, the Marines, they don't know us as well as they think they do, and I think something like this opens that up a little bit more. It gives them the opportunity to hear that, hey, we got a lot of Lance Corporal left in us too. Does that make sense?
It does. So, did you stay in? How long did you stay in contact with this Master? You're still in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where's he at?
He's down in Virginia. He actually landed a little bit closer to where I grew up, down in the Front Royal, Virginia area. But yeah, he's down there, retired, and hunting turkey, and he's getting better. I'll give him that. He's getting better. But yeah, stayed in touch with him. Leroy Strong was at my retirement. He was another huge influence. He retired as a first sergeant. Yeah, all those guys, and it's typical Marine Corps stuff. You don't talk to them for a couple of years, and then you bounce into them. Yeah, and it's like, holy cow.
Nut says something about that.
Yeah.
About that unique aspect that we have, because he mentioned that he hadn't talked to Kevin Simmons in years.
Yeah.
But when he listened to the episode with Kevin, it was like, I was like right there, with him in the room, and like that was such a Kevin thing to say, and it was just like it's hard to really articulate the gravity of those bonds.
Oh yeah.
And one of my assistant team leaders, or my assistant team leader for the two deployments that we were together on an SST. He's a practicing attorney now. Got his his wife and starting their family, and I haven't talked to him in years, but I know if I pick up the phone, we'd be just like when we were on deployment.
Oh yeah.
Like nothing changed, and we hadn't lost any contact at all whatsoever. It's kind of hard to replicate that anywhere else.
The craziest one I saw, or the craziest experience I had with it. So sorry.
No, go ahead.
2012, 13 time frame. Buddy of mine, he and I were in recruit training together. Lanny Powell retires from the Marine Corps, and is down there on Camp Lejeune. Go over for his retirement ceremony and whatnot, and walk in, and holy cow, there's my senior drill instructor. Right. And, we're sitting back, we're drinking beer. The senior drill instructor starts talking about platoon 1042. And he is rattling off stories by name, Marines and all that. Like, this is 20 years ago at that point. And I'm like, how can you remember? You push through thousands. How can you remember? He's like, you guys were my first platoon as a senior. You were special to me.
No, that makes sense.
But I do remember.
That makes sense.
And it blew my mind that a drill instructor could remember the individual names on a platoon like that. And that was crazy. That was crazy.
So you mentioned earlier that you kind of felt like you were a little SIGINT, little EW, but that your strength was taking care of people.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you stay on the Master Sergeant, Master Gun side of things as opposed to going First Sergeant, Sergeant Major route? Did you contemplate the switch, or?
I did. It's funny too. I talked to. I was in 1st Radio Battalion, California, 1st Radio Battalion, and Sergeant Major Tim Blake. He checked out in there, and I talked to him. First Sergeant Lonnie Travis at the time, about going the First Sergeant route, but Blake was the one, after talking with him, he never really said, no, you wouldn't make a good 89, 99. But he didn't say you would. He never said, yeah, you should do this. And I just walked out of the conversation going, I just need to stay the Master Sergeant side of the house. I believe in the mission. I'm little SIGINT, little EW, but I believe in the mission and I have the ability to accomplish it. I'll just keep doing my thing on that side of the house. And no regrets, I love where I ended up.
Yeah. For me, it was the kind of Marines that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also the technical depth and complexity of the OC field. It's constantly evolving. You can't learn it all. It's impossible. But that's not daunting to me. It's delicious.
Oh man, hey, you guys stick around long enough, right? I got out right as we're rolling back into the Cold War. Right. That's where I started. So it's like, man, if my last 4 years would have been great. It'd been like, man, I Lance Corporal all over again. No, it is. It's I think, and there's so much. It is. It's very daunting. There's so much, and everybody wants everything, and that's mission impossible. I talk to officers about it all the time. Even where we're at there in the Warfighter Integration program, talking all the time. Stuff I heard when I was young Marine. We're SIGINT professionals. All right. We don't troll. We hunt. We go out there with one target in mind and we go get it. And with as much that is available today, you've got to be that professional and that hunter, or you'll get lost in the noise floor.
Yeah. So speaking of noise floor, kind of switching it up a little bit, how do you access information as it pertains to the world around you?
How do I access information as it pertains to the world around me?
Right. The information environment that we live in currently.
So
politics, news, current events, media.
I read, holding in my hands, the Maryland Gazette. That's the only newspaper I read. After that, I don't turn on Fox News anymore, CNN, MSNBC.
None of that. That's a data diet.
Because it's and none of it's news. None of it's news. It's all just a bunch of noise trying to tell me how I'm supposed to think about something. Reuters. I do get on the Reuters news site and go through there and read it. They do pretty solid reporting. This is what happened, and that's it. And but outside of that, how do I engage the world and whatnot? I'm on Facebook, right? I'm more of a, I don't know, I guess I'm the old guy. I'm the creeper. I just kind of hang out and watch. I love love seeing what the young guys are up to. It's a great tool for staying in touch.
Yes.
Touch with guys. Just the other day, oh man, you want the Lance Corporal of all Lance Corporal stories. So two Marines that were under me, they always talked about they were going to get out of the Marine Corps, they were going to travel, and then they were going to open up their own brewery. The little bastards did it, right? So they got this brewery out in Washington, and they've got a couple bars, and they're getting ready to open up a new bar, and their brewery's Vagabond Brewery, and they found this old Cessna airplane in a field that had been abandoned for like 10 years, and they buy this thing.
A Cessna.
Right, a Cessna. And they mount it in the ceiling of their bar. Right? It's been abandoned in a field for 10 years. 2 weeks ago, the United States Air Force shows up. It's like a chief master sergeant, a colonel, freaking a tech sergeant, and a couple other guys show up at their bar, this new bar they're opening. Because in mounting that plane, that abandoned aircraft, they hit some kind of switch and turned on the beacon. The Air Force has been searching for a downed aircraft with no missing aircraft at all reported. And I'm like, you guys, man, the Lance Corporal never leaves us. We do dumb stuff.
So when I was interviewing Sean Nicow, he's like, so I'm asking him questions and I'm going, because I've got multiple screens up. I'm using my phone for some notes that I have. Now I got a new setup for my iPad being actually the recording device. I normally travel with the audio interface and headsets and microphones, but this seems to be a little bit better setup for maintaining some, I guess, just some organic banter, conversation back to back, as opposed to feeling like strapped in, like you're getting ready to take a poly.
Oh, you got me, because you were doing your thing there for 10, 15 minutes before I realized what was happening. So this is good. But
one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was what you thought regarding Facebook's privacy pivot. Are you tracking with that? Because you mentioned like I'm the old guy on Facebook, just kind of going through and just kind of checking out what's taking place. But they've been under scrutiny for quite a bit, and one of those things that I think is near and dear to all of our hearts is like oversight, compliance, constitutional protections, and what that information, how that information can be leveraged against us.
Yeah. So powerful. And that's why when I say I'm on there, I'm more passive,
right,
than I am active. The Facebook's privacy things, I gave it fits when they did a thing.
What? You want something to drink?
No, I'm good. They when they the whole facial recognition as another means of authenticating who it is and all that, right? Well, when they first brought that online, it was, you had to do it, right? Russ Meade, he had me in the habit of you put a piece of tape over the camera on your laptop. I put a piece of tape over the camera. Why you do that? Because Russ does it. I mean, if Russ says do it, you do it. But I also put a dab of super glue on the front-facing camera on my phone for the same reason, to block that camera. And if I was trying to log into Facebook, it was giving me fits. It wouldn't let me do it because the facial recognition software was failing. I was having to log on online, and then I finally noodled out what was going on, went in there and turned that off. Boom, now I'm back up on my phone. So Facebook, dangerous. Everything, Facebook, Google, Amazon, YouTube, all of it, dangerous. Because, I mean, when you talk about, people talk about their privacy and all that, I don't think they realize how much they give up to those entities with their searches, right, and all that. They're absolutely brilliant at taking that stuff and then hurting you to your next purchase and what you need.
Yep. So now that you're retired and you got a little bit of extra time, what are you doing for leisure activities? How are you keeping yourself occupied?
So for what I retired, my retirement ceremony was May 24th, 2018. I started work October 10th, 2018. What I did in between there was I spent the entire summer of 2018 building Christmas decorations for my yard. So I don't know if you've seen pictures. I Griswold out. I don't know how or why that became a hobby, but
this is something you've had for years,
and it gets bigger every year. So
are you that guy in the neighborhood?
Yeah, a huge section of my yard is Star Wars. We've started expanding. I've now got a section of the yard that is the Peanuts, and then the old school Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with Klondike Cornelius and the Bumble and all that. Yeah, I'm that guy. Easily, I think this year I hit 5,000 individual lights.
Have you transitioned over to LEDs, or are you still using incandescents?
It's all LED. Have to. There's no way in the state of Maryland I can afford it. But yeah, it's all LED. But and the summer it was just building plywood cutouts and all that to decorate the yard with and whatnot.
So have you explored putting the lights to music?
So that's this year. And so we're not going to have the dancing lights. We're not going to do that, but we're going to have different sections of the yard light up. So as Star Wars music plays, Star Wars will be lit up. Peanuts music's playing, that'll be lit up, and whatnot. So yeah,
So Schroeder was a piano player, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So that's coming this year. I've been cleared hot to buy some equipment so I can get that outdoors and do it.
Have you noticed is there a big uptick in traffic around that time?
Oh yeah. So the neighbor, it used to be it was an uptick in traffic. Now it's like people are stopped. We've had people like on a Saturday they come up and knock on the door. Hey, can you turn your stuff on? So daytime they want the inflatables and all standing because they want to take their family Christmas card picture in front of my house. Sure, we'll do that. It's getting to be something. Master Barajas, Saul. He lives down at the end of the street.
Okay. So I didn't know he was still in the area. I need his contact information. I got I got to ask him some things.
Yeah. He when he first moved into the neighborhood, he came down here and he's like, "Dude, what's with all the lights?" I was like, "Oh man, there's a big competition in the neighborhood. You can win like $3,500." And he goes, "Oh man, I'm beating you." So his is getting bigger, right? There's this competition. Sooner or later, I got to tell him that there is no $3,500 prize. He's going to get upset. He keeps telling me I need to cut back. But yeah, so even his wife got into it this year. It's just like, you guys are out of control.
Yeah, so when I was here for the Language Olympics, when I was a gunny, I hadn't seen Saul and his family since like DLI back in like 2000, 2001 timeframe. And I didn't, when I came here, I got a chance to hang out with them and their sons. But yeah, I think we go way back. But like you said, there was this distance in terms of geographically. We hadn't spoken to each other in years, but the minute I saw him, I was like, hey, and it was just like we hadn't skipped a beat. And that's one of the beautiful things about this way of life, right? Because it's more than a job.
Absolutely.
And I don't think occupation or profession accurately define it. But one of the things that I've struggled with personally has been in maintaining full connectivity with my biological family, my blood family, because there is this separation. Although it may only be self-imposed, it's there, and it's hard for me to bridge that gap sometimes, with some exceptions. It's like my cousin Emiliano, he's an Army grunt. Deployed a couple of times to Bosnia and here and there, wherever. He gets it, right? He speaks the language. He understands. He was a grunt. I'm a pogue kind of thing, and doggy and jarhead, and I mean all of that. But he's the exception and not the rule. Did you experience that, and how did you manage it?
So yes and no. My family, like my family, close but not. I don't know how to say it. Just close but not close, right? If Mom and I talked on the phone, and the conversation went beyond 5 minutes,
right?
There had been like a death in the family. There's coordinating instructions coming home. I'd call Mom every Sunday. That was the rule. Mom got called on Sunday, no matter where I was at. If I could call her, I called her on a Sunday just to say, "Hey, I'm good. How are you?" And then she wanted off the phone.
Right.
My brother, he followed me. He was in the Marine Corps. He did a tour. He's now the, disgruntled friggin' Marine. Got nothing good to say about the Marine Corps. He had a bad experience.
It happens.
It does. It does. I love Keith to death. Probably shouldn't have joined the Marine Corps. He was following in his big brother's footsteps. And then my sister, we talk. We go down a couple times a year and see them there in Virginia. The nieces and nephews. That was the hardest part. Were nieces and nephews. I watched all of them grow up in pictures. On my family side, my niece Samantha, she was born 4 days after I got to Parris Island. And then on my wife's side, Ashley, who's my goddaughter, I was at Devon's when she was born. But I've watched them grow up in pictures.
Right.
And they've laughed because here, now that it's kind of, everything ended, and now I see them whenever I want, and I see them a lot. I still see them very, very little. I told Ashley the other day, she's starting to grow up a little bit. She's not 4-year-old Ashley running around on the floor anymore.
How old is she now?
Ashley's 26.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah.
She's probably up around 12 or 13-year-old somehow trapped in time in my mind, I guess. Now, wife's side of the family, they've been there I come back. Hell, my father-in-law, he's a couple times down to Camp Lejeune, picked me up returning from deployment. My last one in 2011, he drove down, picked me up, brought me home. Crystal thought we were getting back a week later. And she was, they were IHOP or someplace, something like that, for breakfast. And Walt and I came walking in to surprise her. So they've been hugely supportive. But he said the nieces and nephews on her side of the family, ones that were little kids when we met. One of them's in the Army now, stationed here on Fort Meade. I'm like, holy cow, Haley, you were a little tiny baby. How are you a specialist? I probably struggled with it like you did and didn't handle it all that well.
So one of the hardest parts that I've had to contend with lately is maintaining connectivity with my immediate family, not my family, but my brothers and sisters and all of that, especially in the aftermath of my father passing away unexpectedly like he did. And, to be honest, it's, they didn't cope very well with his unexpected death. And although there was a period in time in which he kind of deteriorated before we made a decision to remove him from life support, they weren't able to kind of say goodbye. And so now they're still grieving in a way that has yet to provide closure. And I've noticed that in my interaction with them, sometimes it's almost as if it's very difficult because I look just like my dad. I talk just like my dad, in the same way that Enrique's a clone of me.
Right.
And in the times in which I've gone home, like this last summer, we took 32 days of leave to go see the family. I mean, because we're out there on the other side of the earth, right? I can see in my interaction with my dad's brothers that there's just like a moment where they're not looking at me. They're looking at him. And that can sometimes be difficult, but I also know that it's a value to them and it's a value to me to be that almost a conduit, I think, to allow them to have that interaction because I am gone so often. And if I'm being honest, I sometimes enjoy that because it's almost easier, but I have to force myself back into the groove, and I do it whenever I can. But it gets expensive.
Oh yeah.
I think we dropped. Liz says my math is off, but I know better. In 32 days, it was almost 20 G's.
Yeah.
When you factor in, family of four, travel, restaurants, hotels, all of that.
It's crazy.
Spending money, you name it. But the end result is that it was priceless for the boys to have that time back with their loved ones because they didn't choose this life. It was thrust upon them. So, one of the things that we tried out this year was a reading club.
Okay.
So my wife, my sons, myself, and then whatever cousins or grandmas or aunts that wanted to participate, we all read the same book and then interacted online asynchronously about it. And this book in particular is written by Neil Gaiman. It's called The Ocean at the End of the Lane, something to that effect. If I'm not mistaken, it had some not review questions, but like thought or critical analysis questions at the back of it. So we kind of started there, but it was about the loss of innocence and what happens to a human being when they transition to adulthood, what they forget, what they lose, more than just their innocence. And so, I would ask you, like, what are some of the books that were very influential in different stages in your life? Are you a reader?
Oh, I am. I'm an avid reader. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. Not just because I read General Mattis keeps it on his desk. I've had a copy of that on my desk for a long time. I think the current version that sits on my desk has MGySgt Tiffany written in it. I've given away quite a few of them. It's dog-eared. Notes are written in it. That one's been with me constant. Another book that I've read several times over and is influential is The Virginian.
The Virginian.
Yep. Western. I grew up down in Virginia, so I was just like, okay, I'm going to read this book because of the title. It's a coming of age cowboy story, and it's the typical cowboy story. The guy that's walking right on the edge of right, wrong, and stepping up and doing the hard thing because it's the right thing,
right?
Even though it's going to cost him. After that, The Passion of Command. I can't remember who wrote it. It was a Dark Horse Commander. It's about 138 pages or something like that. That's a really good...
B.P. McCoy.
Yep, that's the one. Man, look at you, all professional.
Yeah, I'm young Jamie and Joe Rogan at the same time. The Moral Imperative of Leadership.
Yep.
And one thing about this book, and I think this is interesting, is that the royalties go to the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Those would probably be the three that I've dragged over the most.
Marcus Aurelius is the one that you give to your Marines.
Yes, sir. I give it out. I've given out several copies of it. Like I said, I write in the margins. I highlight stuff, and there have been copies that I've given away
that had your notes in it.
I wish I could get those notes back. And you get older, you start forgetting stuff, and it's just like, oh man, what was that?
Yeah.
And I try to recreate it, but sometimes it's just, I've lost it.
So I would say the book that I've given away the most to Marines, there's two of them. The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and the other one is The Book of Five Rings by Musashi Miyamoto.
Yep. Good book.
As a matter of fact, it's the Shambhala Pocket Classics are the ones that I like the most because they fit right here in your camis.
Yep.
And it always kind of surprises a Marine when you and whip it out, not expecting it. But I don't give it away lightly. Yeah. If I'm giving a book to someone, it's there's some thought and consideration that has gone into it. And the other thing that I make it a point to do is I write an inscription on the inside for the individual. Something that I picked up, book that was given to me a long time ago by a teacher, Miss Goodwin. She said she hit me one time because she saw I was getting competitive in academically which I wish was a characteristic that I'd maintained for the duration of my life, but I didn't. But she said, don't fret over that, like having the highest GPA, because you have something that's unique in that you have book smarts and you have street smarts, and that combination is invaluable, and it will take you far. And I can honestly say that she was right, because there were times in which I've been in those academic environments or these intellectual arenas, but there wasn't a lot of savviness.
No, and that's what I was going to say. You talked about you had that academic competitiveness, and you wish you'd maintain that. And I was going to offer that I think you have. I think you're on the path of a university. At the end of it, you don't get a sheepskin that says you've completed training, right? It's like the philosophers. Philosophy isn't in a book. When you take philosophy classes, you learn about different philosophers in the time period and all that. Philosophy's out there living life, practicing it. And that's the class you're in. That's the path you're on, right? And you're competitive.
Yeah.
You're competitive.
Yeah.
So I would say academically, you're still hooking and jabbing, brother.
I guess I was just looking at it from a like a brick and mortar educational institution academic perspective. But yeah.
Why put walls on it?
Yeah, you're right.
Since we put walls on it, institutionalize it, it becomes a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that you're 100% accurate there. So you never got into reading the books within the Star Wars universe?
I've read all of them. Every last one of them.
This is one moment in which I wish I was recording a video, because the drop in his face when I asked him that question was like, I thought he was going to punch me. He got serious all of a sudden.
I'm like seriously, bro?
He just showed me his Boba Fett tattoo. So, Enrique, I've read some of them, and I understand now that they kind of retconned that not everything that was written is canon, and all that. So, how do we feel about that, John?
How do we feel about that? Man, this went from a cool thing to now we're going to geek out and nerd. This totally went the 2600 route here. The mouse is screwing things up. That's how I say it. So my wife is a huge Disney fan, and when they're buying Lucasfilm and all that, that was the first thing I said to her. I was like, I swear to God, if the mouse screws up Star Wars, we're driving to Florida, we're burning it to the ground. And what's the first thing they do? They take the expanded universe and go, nope, it doesn't exist anymore. This is all that's canon, and it's the movies, the Clone War cartoons, the Rebels cartoons, and a couple of new books that have come out. That's all that's part of the Star Wars story. Whatever.
Who's the one guy that's in charge of that decision? Because there's like one guy, isn't there? Like he's the dungeon master or whatever the case may be.
I couldn't tell you that. I'm not that. I like Star Wars, but I'm not that guy. I couldn't tell you.
So I guess my question is, I mean, they had to have applied some like thought process to this.
Yeah. So me personally, from Disney's perspective, they did that. It's a marketing thing. It opens it up that they can take the storyline wherever they want to go. And it's
without having constraints based upon the books that were written, and they've got to adhere. Yeah, I guess I can see that.
Because you're talking. There were well over 250 Star Wars novels in the expanded universe, and well developed characters and all that stuff. So by wiping that out, we can make it whatever we want. It can be whatever we want. Han Solo and how he and Chewbacca met in the Solo movie. Not how it happened in the books. Not how it happened.
So how did it happen in the books?
In the books, Chewbacca was a slave helping build the Death Star, and Han Solo saved him.
Really?
From enslavement, and that's why they were lifelong partners.
So he got captured after the Battle of Kashyyyk.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we'll see. I'm really excited about they're doing the Mandalorian, this Disney Plus channel or whatever that's coming out, the new Netflix, but that's going to be like their opening thing is the Mandalorian series. So I'm looking forward to that. So
I take it you're gonna subscribe to that Disney streaming service.
Yeah, they're gonna suck me in.
So right now we subscribe to Hulu, HBO, Netflix. I have Amazon Prime. I got rid of my UFC TV. And what else did we have? We had another one. I think that's it. I did have Stars for a little bit, but I killed that. But what streaming services do you use? Do you still have cable?
Yeah, we have cable, but
for the local channels.
Yep. So
that you as a 2600 could probably just get over the air.
Probably could, but that whole I'll pay my fair share,
right?
Yeah, and the cable really, honestly, the cable's for local channels, and when I say local channels, Mountaineer football.
Okay.
After that, whatever the wife's watching, whatever she likes reality TV. It drives me crazy. Whatever. Streaming services.
Don't ask me questions about. I want to talk about that.
Netflix, Amazon Prime. That's what we stream there at the house. That's it. And then the Disney Plus when it comes.
What's been your Netflix fix lately?
So Daredevil.
Okay.
The Punisher, Jessica Jones.
It's like all that, like Defenders world.
I watched all of them. Those three I really enjoyed. The Iron Fist, I don't think they gave him a fair shake. It's a complicated character to understand, and they needed to stretch out his origin story a little bit more, but whatever. But yeah, I've been watching those. They've got what the hell's the name of it? Is it 13 Colonies or something? There's a new one coming out. It's a movie.
On Amazon or Netflix?
No, it's Netflix. It's got Charlie Hunnam in it. It comes out March 13th.
Is it Charlie Hunnam?
Yep. But yeah, those were my go-to. Punisher season 2 came out, and we had to binge watch that. Only to be crushed like everybody else, and there won't be a season 3.
You do HBO?
Yeah.
Triple Frontier.
That's it. I don't know where I got 13 Colonies.
Let's check this out.
Spent too much time watching Sons of Liberty.
Sons of Liberty?
Yeah.
So why I got no sound? Cranked up. Oh, that's why. We're good because we don't want to portray the AT&T commercial.
And you can't even afford to send your kids to college. I got a job for you. I'm retired. Fish? I need a pilot. I got the new baby now. This can change you and that baby's life forever.
Oh, this is a hell of a
We
cast.
finally get to use our skills for our own benefit. All right. Let's do it.
This looks intense. That was from the new Netflix movie Triple Frontier, starring Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund, and Pedro Pascal.
They play former Special Forces ops looking to steal millions of dollars from a drug lord in South America. I gotta say, this cast got really in shape. They are ready for action for this.
No wonder the internet dubbed them the sexiest cast alive as soon as the trailer dropped. Well, we asked the cast how they felt about the honor. Here's their reaction.
Yeah, I like the premise. Robbing drug dealers.
Yeah, take their money. Take their money.
Yeah. So I did. I watched Sons of Anarchy.
Yep.
All the way through. I was. There were some dips and valleys there, but I like the Mayans.
Yeah.
I liked Sons of Anarchy enough to stick around, watch the whole thing, and then come back to watch a spinoff, which I thought was interesting because it's kind of like because of the flashbacks from the Mayans. There are some instances where they're within the timeline of Sons of Anarchy.
Yep.
Which I think one of the things that they're touching on is like the relationship between outlaw motorcycle gangs and the transnational criminal organizations in Mexico. And then there was like this dynamic of the orphans kind of organizing and going through a process of radicalization and actually, engaging against the cartels, which was interesting because there was an episode back in like 2010 timeframe where the Anonymous, the hacker group, the hacktivist group, had threatened to release the personal information of some of the cartel leaders in Mexico.
Mm.
So, in that microcosm, you have two non-state actors engaging in information warfare.
Yep.
And the Zetas, who didn't have the skill set but had plenty of liquid cash, procured that capability, and Anonymous backed off. And I thought that was interesting to see how that played out. And it's just like, I would say 2010, 12 time frame, somewhere around there. I think it's probably 2012. And I started seeing pieces about it in the Credible Defense subreddit, and it was in Small Wars Journal. It's another website that I've followed for quite a few years.
Yeah.
To keep track of like stuff in South and Central America. Even when I wasn't deployed or engaged in operations in an area, I've tried to stay as relevant as possible, because the way I kind of viewed it as a serious linguist, as opposed to one that was just in name only, was that you had to be current, because you never knew when the requirement was going to be there. And it was something that was kind of ingrained in me when I first checked in at Radbin, and then Gunny Palladino said, "Hey, you want to go to Bolivia?" He was like, "Fuck yeah." I mean, I just checked in and not done any deployments. The war's going on. This was like 2002, 2003 time frame.
Yeah.
he's like, what are your DLPT scores? I say, I'm 333, Gunny. And he's like, so all right. He says, so we're gonna send you over here. You're gonna learn comms because you're gonna go to this team and you're gonna teach the Bolivian Blue Devils HF communications. I don't know shit about HF communications yet. So they put me in the shop with all the 51s, and they're like, you're gonna learn comms, and so then I did as best I could in that time, and I'm gonna tell this episode, and it may ruin my credibility and probably your assessment of me, but first Field X, I'm with Gunny Hawkins.
Mike Hawkins?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so basically, they told me you're gonna grab his belt loop and stick with him, and you're gonna learn everything that they can teach you about communications before you go over to SOTG for that Riverine training team. And so we go to this Field X, and we're out there, and they had like these antenna elements. So they connect to the pole, and then you turn this dial, and these things come out, and it's like a helicopter blade. And so I'm seeing these Marines, and they're fucking around with these devices, and it's like, so like where do you connect the radio to that to those elements? And they're like, you just shitting me, right? And I'm like, no. I was like, motherfucker, these are Caminet spreaders.
Oh man, nice.
I was a sergeant, at Radvin, but I was a 3-year clearance hold. So when I checked in, I mean, I had a lot of ground to make up. And so when I hear like some of these lap movers talk about that almost professional paranoia of feeling like they're behind and trying to keep up. I mean, I started off like that, but after that deployment and then from there going to Haiti and all that, I always needed to remain relevant with the Spanish speaking world, and Small Wars Journal was one of those things that I leveraged for that, because they had these really nice thought pieces that would kind of get into the future of insurgency and how these criminal groups in South and Central America, Mexico, are really kind of like TTP petri dishes. And because not only are they competing with the government and against the populace, but they're competing against each other, and either you're quick or you're dead.
Yeah.
In no uncertain terms, and so the ability to kind of see how the academics are looking at it from their lens really kind of informed my perspective. When I started getting deeper, climbing up the ranks and getting into positions where I was influencing some of the resources and the operations, going towards those areas, to include like my time at the schoolhouse teaching Spanish linguists, to my time at in the DIA when I was working the mission in Santo Domingo, and then later when I got assigned to Company H in San Antonio. That stood me well is that I stayed read in, and I didn't lose that. I mean, I wasn't putting cans on because we had better.
Who taught you that, or was that you?
If I had to say it was anybody, it was Jack White. I don't know if you know him.
The name.
So he was a old Army SIG-enter that got part of the contract for EWA when they were flying out from exercise to exercise. So him, JD, and Glenn were the 3 old hand SIG-enters that were, going from exercise to exercise, providing script for us. And I remember him telling one of the teams something to the effect of, "No one should know your target better than you."
Yeah.
You should be professionally and personally embarrassed for someone else to tell you something about your target set, and that for me meant more than just like pattern of life. It was what are their dreams? What are their hopes? What are their aspirations? What are their, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How do they think? Do they pray?
Yeah.
Like to really get into to the hearts of men.
Because it's a long game.
It is.
You're not gonna do it overnight. You got to stay at it, and at a time when the world has got a bore sight focus on something else, you're still looking. And I think a lot of young guys get frustrated with that. The Spanish linguists. I never forget down at Second Radio Battalion, we got guys we're trying to deploy back down to South America, and every Spanish linguist is going. And they're like, but Master Guns, I go, no ifs, ands, buts about it. 10 years, I've listened to you guys complain. You haven't got to do your job. You're going to go do your job. Excuse me, the boss is calling.
Yeah.
Everybody is going. And it was literally, they were like, but. I'm like, no, there's no buts about it. I joined the Marine Corps to be a Spanish linguist. Well, guess what? You're going to Guatemala and you're going to do some Spanish. And, it was hilarious. And they're like, what are we going to do? You got to translate. And we got them down there. Jessica Brennis. Uh-huh. She took them down there as the staff NCOIC and all that. It was a whole weird thing, Southcom had been like, we're getting no love. But it was also like how they were requesting stuff. We want 138 SIGINT Marines. To do what?
What's the requirement?
SIGINTs, right? And, we get down there and the planning and whatnot. And, finally dragged them into a skiff so we could talk about what they wanted.
Right.
All right, dude, look, I can do this with 28 Marines. That's all you need. No, we need 28. That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting. It's 28. And, hey, this like one thing you want us to do? We don't really have anything organic that can do that. But look, I can do this piece and it fills this gap you just briefed that you have. I can fill that in for you. Oh, you can't? Yeah. Let my guys come down here and do some work for you. But the look on those Spanish linguists' face when we were like, yep, you're going to go do actual Spanish.
So how many of them were UNC?
According to Master Sergeant Brennis, they were all UNC when they got into Guatemala because they didn't understand Guatemalan Spanish.
Yeah. That's different.
Yeah, but she said in fairness that she goes, it'd be like any American walking up into your neck of the woods back home, Master Guns, and normal people don't talk like y'all. And right. I just look at her like, what's that supposed to mean? But okay. So Guatemala, redneck Spanish, got it.
Well, there's a lot of infusion of the native Indian languages in what they speak. And there was a plan. Bruce Malloy, Pops, was spitballing with me what the value is of providing some of those additional Indian or native Amerindian languages for then 74s,
right?
But there wasn't. I wasn't able to identify a significant operational requirement for it to justify the expense. I mean, on the off chance maybe one guy might need it, but by and large, it wasn't something that we'd seen a lot of.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, for us having to be so lean, you know, if we had just money to burn, maybe I'd rather spend it on just straight leg Spanish.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I think it was Nahuatl. That's what they were. It was like the Aztec language, or one of the dialects closely related to it. He had found a learning opportunity, but it was in Mexico, in a time in which it wasn't safe to be in Mexico.
Right.
So I think we just kind of fell by the wayside. But the after action, how did they acclimate to the environment?
Really well. Really well.
It takes, even for me, it took a while. But I'm not a native speaker.
Yeah.
So Bolivia was the same thing. I had to get acclimatized for the little Spanish I spoke in Haiti. It took a while.
And that was Brenda. She was a native speaker, and she said it took her a minute, to acclimatize to what what they were saying and how, and then she was able to get them still more on target, and whatnot. So, I mean, it was a successful deployment down there. They did really well. Rave reviews. They wanted more. Of course, South America, you give them a little bit. They want. Yeah, we want more. We want more.
So was General Kelly the CG of SOUTHCOM at the time?
No. That would have been right before Kelly got down there.
Okay.
Would have been right before he got down there.
There was a great article on the Duffel blog, of all places, about SOUTHCOM basically like shutting it down. Yeah.
Rolling up the flag.
Yeah, Southern Command closes after losing war on drugs for 1 billionth time.
Oh, man.
And then there's a picture, and it says the Colombian soldiers teach Marines the best way to cook up cocaine. But that article, that level of satire, I think we need that to a great extent. Sam Carter mentioned something to me the other day about how one of the things that we could probably do or even consider is like maybe hiring the kid from Terminal Lance. I say kid, he's a Marine, grown-ass Marine, from Terminal Lance to do some of our messaging for us.
Yeah. Him or what was his name? Wolf. They did Semper Tunes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ever read Dunk's Almanac?
Yes. Green side out, brown side out, all those. Yeah. Major Duncan.
That's lost knowledge to us.
Oh, I know. It's old school stuff.
So I had there was a retired Air Force Master Sergeant that gave me or loaned me carefully, like I'm going to give this to you, Staff Sergeant, but I want it back. It belonged to my dad.
Yeah.
Right. So I kept it in my office for about, I'd say, a year and a half, and then every so often I'd shoot out an email to the rest of the staff out there, Goodfellow, with just a 1 or 2 liner from there. And in between classes or whatever, it had a break, I'd crack it open. I've been thinking about purchasing the complete library and including like little tidbits here and there, because it is lost information for us. But one of the things that caught my attention is that he was a cryptologic linguist. He was a Russian linguist.
Yeah.
So it was one of us that contributed that. And I asked Sergeant Major Marquez about that recently, and he's like, "Yeah, you know what? Because when I was flying out to come out here, him and there was like a herd of sergeants major, and command master chiefs like coming up, and I'm in sweatpants and a sweatshirt and baseball cap, comfortable because I got a 14-hour flight. These guys are just flying to Hawaii, but I feel like a shitbird because there used to be a policy that we had to travel in a certain. And I figured, playing the game, I'll be all right. And of course, that's exactly when I get caught. I get herded up with a bunch of sergeants major, and they didn't. Nobody said anything. Some of them were in sport coats and all of that. But it was the command master chief. He said to me, he said, "Hey, are you in the in the Admirals Club or you have access?" I said, "Nah, I don't travel that much yet, so I'm not." It's like, "Well, you follow us." So we hung out with them and drank all the whiskey and ate all the food and all of that prior to getting on the bird. But when I was talking to Sergeant Major Marquez, and I asked him about that, and he's like, you bring up a good point that kind of stuff is not gear common to all anymore. It's like it's been lost.
Yeah. You're talking about getting copies. I'm sitting here I have quite a few of those. I'm trying to find them all in my mind. If I can get them all together there at the house, find them there in different boxes here, there. Yeah. And I'll ship them to you. You can have them.
So when I tried to order them recently, what I found was that he had died, and he self-published that stuff.
Yeah.
If we can get the family to just take the information and put it into an EPUB and just sell it on fucking Amazon.
Shit, you'd think they'd have it down at the museum.
Yeah. But I think that speaks to the fact that if the Marine Corps didn't initially authorize it, it's not going to retro authorize it.
Yeah. Man, those are such good books, and they're it's the sea stories.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's the sea stories and the lessons that are in there. Man, and that's all you're doing here. It's Castro's Almanac. You're gonna hear us.
So here's one I posted up on Facebook, an entry from Dunk's Almanac. The cryptologic Marine is no more than an average Marine with above average intelligence whose head has been pumped full of nonsense about how special he is.
That's accurate. That's accurate. We've all said that in some varying degree. I think you would take that today in 2018. You would have to take out the cryptologic and put in cyber, and it's the exact same message.
Here's another one. I know God loves me because He allowed me to be a Marine all these years.
Hoorah!
We'll get teary-eyed up in here. Yeah, it's But
the other thing we don't have from that era, you talk about like the books like that, characters, right? Characters. I mean, when I came in, all the nicknames that were out there, it was Pops Malone, it was Pops Gomez, Pappy, Paul Sweeney, things like that. But these characters and nicknames that everybody knew. Didn't matter where you went.
Yeah.
Chesty. If you talk about Chesty, you knew there was only one Chesty.
Yeah. For me, it was Gecko.
Yeah. Right. Right. Hell, I didn't know he had another name. And
so I asked Russ this, and he didn't know, and it surprised me. I got a story about Gecko. How did he get his nickname?
I don't know. I've never asked him. I've heard a couple different stories. It has happened to do with him biting off a gecko's head and all that. Like, that doesn't seem like Dave.
No.
At all. I'm like, I have no idea, but freaking, he's always been Gecko.
Yeah. So he showed up we had a crazy sergeant major when we were in Iraq, and where they had me positioned, because they pulled me out of Haiti early, made me do the workup to send my ass back out to Iraq. It was Master Gunny Stevens at the time that called me, like, "Are you re-enlisting?" I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because if you are, then your ass is going to Iraq." And he's like, "It makes no sense. I'm in the middle of combat operations here in Haiti." He's like, "Yeah, but that's not really the fight. Main effort is going to be in Iraq. We're stacking our deck. We're trying to take, cream of the crop. I'm not trying to blow you up, but the company commanders are drafting their picks, and your name came up quick and early. So if you're going to re-enlist, I'm going to pull you out and send you, so you can do the workup, have time to reconnect with your family, so you can do the workup and get back out the door." I was like, "Well, I can't give you an answer right now. Let me call my wife and figure out what's next." Talk to her. We're good to go. 4 more years. So they pulled me out, and we did our thing, and but in the process of all of that, kind of getting to understanding, the fact remains is, you get into that mode, and you don't, as a team leader, I wasn't taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. Take care of home, right? Mama's got to be good, and that was non-negotiable. And I take care of the team and all that, but that was the mindset. So we're out in Iraq, and Gecko comes through, right? I'm the senior guy on the team. We're supporting 1503rd out there in Habbaniyah, north of TQ. Mm-hmm. And he says, "What do you need?" And I'm like, giving him my list and of everything that we're kind of deficient on in terms of capabilities and just what I would deem right now to be somewhat insignificant. Looking back at it, but he didn't give a shit. He was writing it down. Yep. And it wasn't long before things started showing up and all of that, and I mean it made a resounding impact on me, because motherfucker kept his word. Mm-hmm. And if there was and it was funny because one of the things I was talking about was like, we keep losing power, and it's fucking us up because the ups are just not sufficient. But I'm working something. And he was like, "Okay, all right." And what I was working was, I convinced the Army that their 52 kilowatt generator was actually mine. They needed to hook it up, and so I sent a message out to the OCCC, "Hey, let Master Guns know I don't need an additional generator. We're good to go." So then later, the battalion commander Pollock, the sergeant major come out and they're like, "Where'd you get that generator from?" It's like, "It belongs to the Army. We convinced them that it was ours. They hooked it up, and we're solid now." So I had to install like this big old turtle box. But other than that, we were because I didn't have an automatic transfer switch. Right. But so we had to do that manually. But we had enough power for the ups to hold us over until we flipped it over and cranked up the Jenny. And so years later, I run across him at Radio Battalion. I'm about ready to, I just picked up Staff Sergeant, and I'm about ready to go. I got orders to, I think I had orders to Meade at the time. And I was going to work for him. I think is how they had finagled it. But he showed up and he told me, he said, you don't want to come just yet. And here's why. There's a spot opening up for you on the Meade. You're gonna take that and you're gonna run with it. And sure enough, I ended up getting my own Meade by a twist of circumstances as a staff sergeant. And I mean, it was the toughest deployment, but also the most rewarding.
That is the hardest thing.
as a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
And I had Staff Sergeant Sagabill with me as our P&R chief. She's legit.
Yep.
And although you would think that was a great thing to have, for me it made me paranoid because I was like always kind of like second guessing myself because I mean she's sharp and if I fuck something up, she'd be the first one to tell me. So that was good to have. But also, you know, I mean, it kept because it kept me on my toes. So years later, I'm in DIA headquarters going through JMAS, suit and tie, me and some 0211s that are going through the program with me. We walk up to get some coffee, and there's Gecko in line. And I was like Master Guns. He's like, you gotta be a gunny by now. I said I am. He's like, what are you doing here? And I explained to him the whole story of how I got into that assignment with the DAO. He tells me, you know, I still tell stories about you to this day. And I was like, damn, like Gecko said that.
Yeah.
And he's like, so I keep calling him Master Guns in the conversation. I'm trying to explain these 0211s with no fucking clue who they're standing in front of. He's like, I mean, this is Master Gunny O. And he's like, please, Sam, call me Dave. I was like, can I call you Gecko?
Yeah.
So later on, I got him to tell me how he got the name, but I'm not gonna reveal that. I'll let him.
Right.
I'll let him do that. I'll tell you off tape. But you know, when you talk about characters, for me it was the amount of character that he had.
Yeah.
Which for me it's like you know, him and Joe Keenan and a bunch of others that had, you know, significant impact on my professional development, and the way in which I crafted or fine-tuned my leadership mindset. I wanted to leave it. I felt like they gave me something in trust and confidence, and it's my job to make it better in any way that I can, and that's kind of informed my approach to all of this, especially as I kind of like disconnected from the unit in San Antonio and checked in at Okinawa as a master sergeant, and I have to figure it all out again because I'd been away from the fleet for almost 8 fucking years at that point in time.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a CG that needs, you know, some SIGINT.
And you're out there in the middle of nowhere,
right?
Forgotten.
And I was the only 2691.
Yeah. And and what's next? You're gonna be a Master Guns coming back into a radio battalion.
I don't know about that.
And they're gonna be like, "Who are you?"
I don't think so. I don't think they'll be like, "Who are you?" I've already had Marines come up to me like, "I know who you are, Master Sergeant," as I introduce myself, and so. But then it'll be to live up to the hype, right? I mean, because you know, I know that I pulled the metrics on the distribution footprint for this hobby of mine.
Yeah.
I know the geographic footprint where my reach is and where it isn't, and so it's in a lot of ways it's forced me to keep honest, forcing me to keep myself honest, and stay focused on the prize, but there's been a lot of good that comes out of it because, like, I was thinking about this the other day. When I was in college and I pledged for my fraternity, there was a requirement for us to get an interview with as many of the members as we could. We sit down in this type of environment,
right?
And the only way that you were good was you got a piece of paper with their signature on it. You were taking notes as they were talking to you, and it was your duty to protect that information in a specific binder. And you know, some of the fraternity brothers wouldn't give you their eye; they'd tell you no. And I've had Marines tell me, "Nah, it's not for me." I think that what you're doing is potentially damaging in a certain extent if it were to be consolidated into a point that it could be leveraged against us. That's one perspective. I disagree. I think that there's way more good that comes out of this. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I sat there and looked Jen Coco in the eye when she told me how much of an impact this had on her when she was going through recovery. I've had Marines tell me that, they needed to hear Kevin Simmons describe how he was so single-mindedly focused on the mission that he forgot his role as a father and a husband and what he did to redeem himself towards that. I mean, those are powerful, just anecdotes, but there's more of that out there than I could have anticipated.
Yeah.
So I'll press forward, but we're closed this year. At least that's the rumor, and we're over. But I'm still having fun. I'm not chasing the bomb. I know I'm competitive, but there's holes in my game, just like anybody else. But I would say that it's the journey that's been making it the most rewarding. That and the fact that the family is still all in.
That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, Liz is loving it. She's like, "While you're over there, you talk to Nick to see if we could stay here long." I said, I can't do that, baby. I said, we've already had our conversation. We know that we got the year extension. Stay on the rock.
Yeah.
And from there we play it by ear, year by year after that. And I'm good with that. When we learned that early, is that, and Liz has it hanging in the house. Home is where the Marine Corps sends us.
Yeah.
And reality for me, home is wherever Liz is standing. But as you sit here listening to me, kind of explain that, I guess that mindset. What's going through your head in terms of like where you were when you were in my position?
So what's going through my head right now is like the trying to piece together the lesson for you on what's next. That not duty station, but that next transition when you move to that next chapter. But and as you're talking about, home is where Liz is. That was my entire career. Home was wherever Crystal was, and a lot of times it wasn't where I was at. We made the choice. Because her family was from here and her network was here. Whenever I went to Radio Battalion, she stayed here. We knew going to Radio Battalion meant deploying. I went to 2nd Radio Battalion. The first time I was there 5 years, only 7 months I spent in the States. The rest of the time I was gone. So dragging her across the country to leave her in California or dragging her to North Carolina to leave her didn't make sense. When I left, she would stay here and I'd go and do my thing, and when I came home, I came home. But the one thing I will tell you, and I hope you prepare for it better than I did. A day will come when there's one person you got to worry about. And that's that guy looking back at you in the mirror. Make sure you're ready to take care of him. Right? Everybody talks about the transition is going to be hard for you and all that, and it wasn't. I was I was done. I was ready to move on to other things. But really taking care of me, what's John like to do? What's John want to do? I hadn't given that a single thought for 26 and a half years.
You put everybody else first.
Yep. I was sitting in the transition seminar down in Annapolis, and they had us do this exercise, and we were supposed to write about our last vacation. Right? And the last vacation I could come up with was 2011 to Camp Dwyer, Afghanistan. Like, I just, that's the closest thing to a vacation I'd had, going into the retirement seminar. And I'm like, this is like, what am I getting into? And that was the scariest piece, because it's like, what do I like doing in my off time? And a lot of it's just finding the old hobbies that had been put to the side. Like I said, the summer, a lot of time making Christmas decorations, more time on my mountain bike, pulled out the fishing rods, dusted them off, restrung them, got some fishing in and stuff like that. But, everybody will hit that point. You'll hit that point when all right, now that's it. As you move toward that, make sure you're thinking about that guy. Right?
Yeah, so I think I've cracked that code already. It's coffee, good coffee.
Yeah.
Good whiskey, good food. Liz and I have always had a penchant for dining out. So that's part of it. Jiu-jitsu is become a decompression event for me. Like last night, I met up with some young guns, 2 sergeants from here at MCSB, invited me to go roll out here at Conquest, and it was great. It was great. And at the end of it, I'm all sweaty and tired. And at the end, I rolled with like 2 white belts and 2 black belts, and I was smoked. But I mean, it was just like it was a euphoric lift.
Yep.
And there was a bunch of other guys that you could kind of feel that they were in the same, brainwave pattern. Just completely exhausted, but like I said, euphoric. So there's that. I like playing video games with my boys.
Yeah.
So we built gaming PCs for the 3 of us. So we'll get online and have a good time together. With a mouse and keyboard and headphones and linked up via voice chat and all of that. Although I just got a message from Liz that my youngest hasn't been doing his homework as often or as regularly as he had been telling us. So he just got grounded from that, and I may be somewhat to blame because he follows my lead, but that seems to be the good time. And I think that one of the things that I'm looking forward to when I finally hang up my gloves is I want to go to school.
Yeah.
And just enjoy that in a way that I wasn't prepared or ready to do at a younger age. But that's why I had a hard time making a decision to transfer my educational benefits to my boys, because I wanted to keep it for me. But I went ahead and brought them into the system with this last re-enlistment, just because of the fact that, if I don't use it all, or if they use it and I use it, I still have the Hazelwood Act in the state of Texas available to me. But I think that's where I'm at. And so when I spent the last few days here at the fort, in civvies more than in uniform, I started to contemplate, like, could I cross deck over and serve in another way without reaching that end goal, and not have it leave a bad taste in my mouth. And I think I could, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. Like I said, I'm still having fun. I love like walking into MEF headquarters and stopping by the 6 and
Bro, I'm not encouraging you to do anything. No, if you're having fun, I got it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
I like grabbing the Marines and say, hey, we're gonna meet at the gym in the morning at 4:00, or 5:00, just cause I'll get up at 4, but get some coffee and then meet them at the gym at 5. That's still fun to me.
Good.
But I think when it stops being that, I'll know.
Yeah.
But I think that I figured out how to take care of me, but not doing so to the detriment of what's required of me. But who knows? I think Liz wants to retire in Texas, but there may be something out here on the East Coast for me in terms of my next assignment. Like I had a conversation with Sam Carter the other day. It's like one of the things that I've done, good, bad, or indifferent, is I've not hidden while I was on Okinawa, and so there are several that have alluded to the fact that there are discussions about where in the National Capital Region to place me to make most effective use of the characteristics that I bring to the fight. I don't know where that is. I'm not partial to one particular assignment or the other. I'm grateful for the fact that our OCCFLD grabs usually a junior master sergeant to turn into the monitor, because I wouldn't want that job. And Derry Cross seems to have a good handle on the OCCFLD specialist piece after John Scoggins conducted his turnover. But there are some.
How much did John Scoggins pay you to make that plug?
He didn't pay me at all.
Yeah,
I did link up with him while I was here. I wish there's some guys that I've gotten to know now. I wish we'd have spent more time in the field together.
Yeah,
guys like him, Sam Carter. I mean, General Donahue came out to visit Okinawa. I don't know if you knew him, former DCI, and we were talking about He had a town hall meeting, but as is sometimes my tendency, I hit him with a question that got him off on a tangent, and we were having a back and forth with the whole room kind of just paying attention, and about my perspective that an EWST is an SST by another name, and so as afterwards he came to me to talk to me in the back, and we were kind of talking about it a little bit further, and I was discussing some of the things that I'd engaged in conversation with John Scoggins and Sam Carter, and he just kind of just stopped. He's like, man, what a great OCCFLD. And I was like, you're right. Despite what Dunk says about cryptologic Marines, we've got an outsized amount of talent, and I think that's another reason why I've enjoyed staying in this field as much as I have, because it's stacked. For the most part, yeah. And one of the running themes of this podcast has been, you tell me who you walk with, I'll tell you who you are. And I don't think any truer words have ever been spoken. I wish we'd have gotten a chance to be stationed together.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too. When you asked me about doing that and doing this, and I was like, man, I don't know that Sam, we crossed paths, but I don't know that Sam and I were ever station together. And that's in my mind. I was like, nope, we never had. But I will tell you, I know who you are. I know who you are by reputation. That's why I was being facetious about you being out on the rock, and you're going to come back to a radio battalion. Everybody's going to like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
No, they know who you are. You said this will keep you honest. Don't let that pressure crush you.
Nah.
Right.
I've learned to become comfortable in uncomfortable positions.
But you are that giant now, bro. And you're casting a big shadow out there. And them youngins are hungry. Right?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that I'm not deficient in my obligation to prepare them to be successful in the coming war. That's the part that keeps me up at night.
Yep.
I know it's coming.
So I used to the Marines call it my 9/11 speech. And the first time I gave it was probably 5 years ago. Here, the fort does. They did a garrison run, 9/11 memorial run, remembrance run, and all that. And, you know, everybody gets out there, 0 dark 30, hua, low righty left, at this like 15-minute mile pace, and people are falling out, and you're like, what the hell is going on? But you get all the way through it, and then we get to the end of it, and there's this, you know, the garrison commander gives this speech about why we're out here to remember what happened on September 11th. The towers got attacked, and it was all kind of blase. You know, it's like, you know, dismissed, and we pull all the Marines together, and you know, the CO's out there talking, and the whole time the garrison commander and the garrison sergeant major are talking, now my CO is talking, I am getting mad. I'm just mad as hell. And I hear the CO, hey, Master Guns, you got anything? And I was like, you're goddamn right. I'm tired of this shit. I'm absolutely tired of this shit. I'm tired of celebrating 9/11. Because that's their day. They won. They won. You know the most significant day in my life was September 10th. Because September 10th, 2001 at 1730, we secured for the day because we had time to get shit done tomorrow. And tomorrow never came. And that, you know, and I knew it then. You could just hear and I'm like, yeah, I got all of your attention right now. I go, you never know when that day's coming. I go, and that's why you'll hear us talk about you have to be professional, you have to be proficient, you have to be pushing. You have to be thinking about what's going to happen, not tomorrow, not next year, what's going to happen 15 years from now. And what are you doing to make sure you're ready for it? Because you never know when September 10th, 1730 is going to happen to you. You're going to go home thinking you got time, and you don't. You don't.
And with that, we're out.